Hi everybody, welcome to First Chapter Friday. My name is Dawn and today I am going to be reading this wonderful book. It's called The Book That No One Wanted to Read and is by Richard Ayoade. And it's funny, it made me laugh, so I hope it's going to make you laugh too. So let me read some of it for you. This is the introduction, in which a book asks several important questions, successfully answer them, and generally get things off to a superb start. What is it that makes you want to read a book? They say you should never judge a book by its cover, but how else can you decide whether you might like it? You can't read a book to figure out whether you want to read that book, because by that stage, you will have already read it. That's why us books always try to make our covers look fun. But we know from bitter experience that even if we adorn ourselves with a majestic, sparkly unicorn or a magical, fearsome dragon, the battle is far from won. How can we forget the times we've been hurled across the room, left under withy pant piles, or worse, shelved, forever collecting dust? What's so bad about being on a dusty shelf, you might say? But you've never been a book. I have a very bad dust allergy and no nose. Where are those sneezers going? Oh yes, I'm a book. Hello. I suppose you might think that it's weird that a book is saying hello. Well, why shouldn't it say hello? We're not animals, although oddly, you seem very happy to read about animals saying hello and doing all sorts of other things that don't seem too realistic. Like tigers sitting at tables eating ice buns and not biting your head off. Here's a tip. If you see a tiger in your house, get out of your house. If you want to make friends with an animal, at least pick one that doesn't eat people. Sorry, I get angry occasionally. Do you? Here are the top 5 things that grate my gears. 1. People who fold the corner of a page to save their place. Have these savages not heard of novelty bookmarks? Or paper? Or memory? Which part of your body would you most like folded back on itself? 2. People who underline certain words. All the words are important. 3. People who skip to the end. If the end was meant to come sooner, it would be called the middle. 4. People who give up after one paragraph. What are you afraid of? Wasting another 12 seconds? 6. Difficulty with counting. Now, as you may have guessed from the title, I'm going to tell you a story about a book that no one wanted to read. And it's a very moving story. And I say that with all modesty, that this might be the most important book of all time. Why? Because it's the first book to have been written by a book. Most books are written by authors. Take it from me, authors can be quite annoying. They go on and on, filling up page after page, but they have no idea what's it like to be a book. They think we exist just to please them. What do they know about the real experience of being a book? Well, that's about to change. I'm in charge now, so stand back and fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy read. Chapter 1, in which tell the immortal and best-selling story of the book that no one wanted to read. The book that no one wanted to read did not have a cover design that was sparkly or magical or scary. The book that no one wanted to read didn't have a cover design at all, unless you call plain a design. The only memorable thing about it was, no, it's gone. The only impression the book that no one wanted to read was making no impression whatsoever. It was a murky kind of non-colour, like something dull reflected in a bog. Or say, you stared at a school lunch table for a little while and you let your eyes drift so that there about an hour, everything was just a blur, a flat sort of nothing that you couldn't describe. That's what this book looked like. Or, to put it in an equation, level of fun on cover of book, equals nil. And as for what was on the inside, imagine the driest leaf you ever saw. One of those leaves that, were you to pick it up, it will crumble like a stepped-on cracker. A leaf that, if it was subject to the barest of breezes, will break into a billion sullen specks. Well, compared to this book, such a leaf is like a lush tropical garden, besprinkled by the soft spray of a waterfall. The book that no one wanted to read was so deathly dry that even bookworms gave it a swerve. We can't digest it, they'd say. It's like sucking on cement. So off they go on to more accommodating books in which they could both bed and breakfast. There are people who say they like the way the books smell. Well, these people have never smelled the book that no one wanted to read. The book that no one wanted to read was a musty old stinker, mingling the aroma of mould, the dankness of dust-smothered moss, and the far-off scent of gypsocks. But we cannot blame the book that no one wanted to read for its offensive odour. It's not like it could wash. Books don't do well in the shower, nor the bath. Even a damp cloth can prove too much for us. We go all sad and see-through, and when we dry out, if we dry out, we start to expand. And before long, we're a puffy disgrace that can barely stand up straight. Some of us literally fall apart, others become illegible. To us books, the word illegible is one of the scariest words in that top book. And close personal friend, the dictionary. Do you know what it means? Illegible means that something is impossible or nearly impossible to read because it is so unclear. If a book becomes illegible, what is it? Have you heard the old philosophical question? If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, I know the answer to that philosophical question. The answer is yes, it does. Obs. I also know what sound it makes, and that sound is ow. You see, I know because those books are there. Paper comes from trees. This means we were once inside these trees, and when no one else is around, trust me, those lads let rip. The idea behind the if a tree falls in the forest problem is really about sound. What is a sound? A sound must be heard. And if no one is there to hear it, can a sound exist? I sometimes wonder whether the same is true of us books. If no one can read us, what are we? If no one sees you, are you even a person? How would you know if you were even real? You'd be invisible. Us books need to be seen. We need to be held. We need to be heard. I think that's why children make the best readers, because they know that these things are also true of them. By now, you're probably thinking, oh, this is fine. If you enjoy a book, moaning for 50 hours, but what about the story? When are you going to get on with it and say some more about the book that no one to read? Because at the moment, or maybe a little before this moment, if you're being truly honest, you're thinking that this is the book that no one to read. To which I'd say, control your camel, the story is coming. And anyway, we are a little way into our adventure. We know how to read the book that no one wanted to read. Looked sort of blah. It felt dry and it smelled not good. But what of its contents? For a book that's a mere object, it's like a delivery vehicle, a packed truck that pulls up outside your head, laden with language and story and ideas. That's when you say to your friend, did you read so-and-so? You know that they don't have to read your copy of the book in order to give you an answer. What you're really asking is, did that packed truck laden with language and story and ideas pull up alongside your head as well? In other words, did you like what the book was about? And in other words, did you like the way it was told? It's a book inside that sets it apart. A book fashioned from solid gold encrusted with jewels, gossamer pages, ruffled by the sweet breath of angels, can still be a bore. What exactly were the contents of the book that no one wanted to read? It's a quick trick question. No one knew. Because no one had ever opened the book that no one wanted to read on account of no one wanted to read it, ever. But one day, that all changed. Let's say a little bit more about this one day, because if you think about it, all days, one day, which day made this day particular? Well, what made this day particular was that on this particular day, a particular child walked into a particular library that housed a particular book that no one wanted to read. Would you mind imagining that particular library for me? I'm new to storytelling and I'm keen to set the right mood. Is it big or small? I agree. Big seems more appropriate. New or old? Yes, old seems right. It feels like the book that no one wanted to read has been in this library for quite some time. Shall we make the library a little cobwebby? Oh, I know what you mean. That might make this whole story feel a bit too spooky. This is a library, not a haunted house. But let's make it a little fusty smelling. Nothing unpleasant. It's just that this place isn't exactly on friendly terms with a feather duster. Now, shall we turn our attention to the child? Yes, let's meet this particular child. But we have to be careful not to make this child too particular. For example, if I said this particular child was an 8-year-old girl with red pigtails who lived in Ipswich and was able to breathe fire, you might think, that's nothing like me. My hair is brown and curly. Also, why would anyone want to live in Ipswich? Each one of us is particular, but very often the people in books don't seem very particular at all. They're just strong or handsome or beautiful or charming, or else they're a villain. I think we should try something different. How would you describe yourself? There's no need to look in a mirror. A mirror won't show anything more than the light bouncing off your face. That's your cover, in a manner of speaking. And by now, we know something about the trouble with covers. What's underneath? What are you actually like? It looks like you, but isn't you. Because that's what this particular child, this character is, you. In fact, we're even going to call this character you. Also, let's not tell this story as if it's something that happened, because I don't know what's happened. The story is happening now. It's unfolding. Or, to be a bit less fancy about it, I'm making it up as I go along. So in summary, time is now, place is a library, and the main character is you. And that is a little bit from the book that no one wanted to read. I hope that you do want to read it, and you can find it in the library. Bye guys, thank you for joining me today.